So, a brand new War Thunder update has come out recently, and it is as boring as you can imagine. We got a copy-pasted F-16 number 59, a copy-pasted premium number 559, and an ugly tank. Very exciting, am I right? What is a lot more interesting and potentially frightening is a recent discovery that came from the hacker community. And if they are to be believed, War Thunder is not just taking screenshots of your screen, but also stealing your files. This information does come from hackers, and listen, I dislike them just as much as anyone else. They ruin multiplayer games and, in some cases, outright kill them. You have no idea how mad I was when a game I loved got shut down permanently because of a hacker infestation. And War Thunder is no stranger to hackers either. In fact, I talked about one in a video last year. That guy could make keyboard-guided missiles behave like R-73s, kill every single player in a match by clicking on them, boot you out of your account, and even send messages through your account to potentially get you chat banned. Actually, something happened recently that made me think of this guy again. You see, a couple of weeks ago, a script started circulating around which allowed you to trick War Thunder in such a way that allowed you to buy any item in the game, even if it's hidden. This script, however, was rigged to only buy a very specific item, the 6 bush pack that has been unavailable since 2015. And not only did the script actually work, as far as I know, not a single player has been punished for using it. So if you've noticed a very sudden influx of tanks completely covered in bushes in your tank games, you're not crazy. And no, the script doesn't work anymore. Gaijin has kind of fixed the problem. That is to say, I don't like hackers very much. While there are some that make genuinely helpful or funny things, their impact on games is usually overwhelmingly negative. But in this particular case, they might be onto something very important here. Now, this story has to do with anti-cheat systems, and while War Thunder has one right now, and in fact multiple, as you will learn shortly, this wasn't always the case. If you can believe it, War Thunder had no anti-cheat at all ever since its first release in 2012 up until 2019. That's 7 years of no protection whatsoever. Was it bad? Not really. You might think it's crazy that the game wasn't infested with cheaters, but it makes perfect sense. Back then, War Thunder wasn't very popular. It was a plain game for aircraft enjoyers that had a relatively modest player base. Even if you wanted to cheat, the game handled most things server-side, which protected it from simple attacks. And even then, cheats would not do much in air battles. Wallhack would be useless, and an aimbot would only get you so far when you need to actually dogfight people. Things definitely changed with the introduction of tanks in 2015, and the change was twofold. First, cheats actually became viable. Unlike in air battles, you can actually benefit quite a lot from wall hacks and such in tank battles. I'm pretty sure at least half of the tank player base was abusing ultra-low quality settings to see through bushes and vegetation, so you can definitely tell that tools like wallhack would be popular. The other, more significant change that came with tanks was the increase in popularity. More players means more people desperate or stupid enough to use cheats, and that meant Gaijin had to do something. And oh boy, it took them a while. Only in 2019 did Gaijin introduce easy anti-cheat into the game, and I'm not entirely sure if it did anything. I know it crashed my game, so I played with it disabled, which is very funny. Find me another game that allowed you to turn off the anti-cheat. Now, I can only assume that easy anti-cheat was actually useless, because in 2024, Gaijin announced a switch to BattlEye. And oh boy, I had a lot of prior experience with BattlEye. If you've played such games as DayZ, Battlefield 3 or 4, or Rainbow Six Siege back in the day, then you know that BattlEye is about as effective as a stock shell on most tanks in War Thunder. Still, that's what the game uses to this day, so I guess we're stuck with it. But as it turns out, BattlEye might be a smokescreen for the real anti-cheat that Gaijin doesn't talk about. Now, all the following information comes from hackers and their forums, so take it with a massive grain of salt. While I am reluctant to believe them, if this is true, Gaijin might be in trouble. So, according to them, in 2024, it was discovered that Gaijin has quietly implemented a hidden anti-cheat system into the game called Viking Anti-Cheat, or VAC. What a coincidence, am I right? At the time, the reverse engineering showed that it initialized when you entered a match and simply collected some simple player data and checked if the map files were tampered with. And that was that. However, a few weeks ago, hackers have sounded an alarm on their forums. According to the initial poster, these days Viking Anti-Cheat takes screenshots of your screen, which is already bad enough, but then another poster suggested that it goes as far as target specific people and collect not only their information, but also their files and upload them to Gaijin. And then there is a huge post where a user claims to have reverse engineered the anti-cheat and explain how it works. According to them, Viking anti-cheat is not normally present in the game. It's only when you get into a match that your client receives the anti-cheat code from the server, which then executes as you play. According to them, it then does many things, such as scanning all your active overlays like NVIDIA or Metal. Then it looks through all the windows you have open while looking for specific things from a list. Now, I don't want to show this list, as this is likely all the cheats that Gaijin is aware of. It also checks all the process names you have running with a separate list, and funnily enough, the name test is on this list. I sure hope you guys weren't running anything with that name. Where this starts getting suspicious is this anti-cheat looks through all the recently executed files and looks into specific directories. Again, I don't want to show them, but something as generic as C users Alex desktop is on this list. Remember that. Now here comes the scary part. They say that this anti-cheat doesn't just scan files in Windows. If it finds something it considers suspicious, or something that matches a name on the list, it creates a report. That report includes screenshots of your screen and every single file it considers to be suspicious. I assume it's specifically the file extensions mentioned in this post, although obviously that list can be incomplete. The report is then uploaded to a specific address, and all of that is done while you are enjoying or suffering through a match in War Thunder. That's what they say. So then, what if this is true? On one hand, you could say that this is great. Gaijin is taking a proactive stance against cheating and is actively hunting down hackers. They are stealing their source code straight from their computers to be able to defend the game against them. Honestly, this is the first time I've heard anything like this, so you could say it's amazing that Gaijin is willing to make the fight against hackers so personal. So that's the optimistic outlook. Now let's consider the alternative. If all this is true, this basically means that Gaijin does whatever it wants with our files and computers while we are playing War Thunder. You might say you won't get targeted, but how can you be sure? You have no idea what Gaijin considers suspicious or not. What if you code as a hobby or as a job? Or what if your Windows username is Alex? Well, in that case, say goodbye to your privacy, because Gaijin is uploading everything you have on your desktop to their servers. This is going into conspiracy theory territory, but since this anti-cheat works while you're in a match, what if it's responsible for some of those random ping and packet loss spikes you sometimes get only in War Thunder? You know, because it's uploading your files? Now, the hackers say that this kind of data collection should be disclosed in War Thunder's end-user license agreement, and yet it is not, at least if all of this is true. I don't speak lawyer language to fully understand this agreement, but if they are right, it seems like Gaijin might be in some legal trouble over doing something like this in secret. The hackers also say that a few days after this was discovered by them, Gaijin has pulled the plug and is no longer running this code while you play, but that might only be temporary. So I would like to believe that all of this is just a bunch of lies. Still, if it ends up being true, that could mean that Gaijin knows everything I have on my PC and everything you have on your PC. Not only that, but they could have already uploaded everything and linked it to personal information about each of us, and ended up with a database that they can use not only for anti-cheat activities, but perhaps even more personal applications. And now imagine this database leaks somewhere. Basically, if this is real, this might be one of the worst breaches of privacy I have ever seen in gaming, if not the worst. And while most of the world's privacy isn't really protected in any way, European citizens might have something to say about this, if this is real. And that's a big if. Okay, monthly recap time. So Gaijin has just dropped a new infantry trailer, and it seems like they got rid of the squad system after numerous complaints about it. It seems like now you play as a single soldier, so it's more akin to Battlefield in that sense. Although I'm not sure if they increased the time to kill to compensate. The latest big update for War Thunder has been kind of disappointing. In terms of aircraft, it's really just more of the same, although I was excited for more props in the form of the Hungarian tree and Me-210s. Ultimately though, those planes are very unremarkable, and Me-210s specifically are just worse Me-410s at similar BRs. Now, I'm sure top-tier players will appreciate the few new jets, and tank players will possibly have fun with the reworked White Rock Fortress, but those things aren't for me. I will say that I do like the update to stat cards, and while they're still far from perfect when it comes to aircraft, it is at least a step in the right direction. Perhaps one day they will actually include relevant stats instead of the useless top speed, turn time, and climb rate. One day for sure. As always, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. And to everyone else, thank you for watching until the end, and I shall catch you in the next video.